All right, we're live.
It says live.
Right.
Hey guys, welcome. We are going to do a live video here on how to speed read. I started off teaching memory training seminars in 1991. And one of the things people always ask me after the seminar is, hey, do you have a speed reading course? And speed reading is something that I never really had an interest in until I was probably 10 years into memory training. But I think it's kind of a natural evolution or a natural development to go from memory training to speed reading. So then I started finding out what is speed reading and started looking into it, and it really is possible. Now I want to debunk some myths here. Unless you are just an extraordinarily fast reader, like my friend Howard Berg, who's just, Guinness Book of World Records fast, from my research and my belief and my own personal thing, I think you can get up to maybe 800 to 900 words per minute and still read with comprehension. I don't think you're going to get much farther than that. But the average person reads about 200 words a minute. So if using the tips that I'm going to share with you in this video, you can double your reading speed to 400 or 500 words, I think you'd be happy with that. And why would you be happy with that? Well, because maybe you got a stack of books at home that a stack of books at home that you never got a chance to read because you don't have the time. When you read faster, you can learn faster. And when you learn faster, you can get through school faster. You can advance in your career, your job faster. So first of all, in order to speed read, I'm going to give you my 5 tips on speed reading in this video. But before we learn how to speed read, we need to find out how fast we read. So the first way to find out, and the only way to find out how fast you read, is to calculate your reading speed. How to calculate your reading speed. I believe I put this in the description of the video that's going right now. If I didn't, I will go back after we're done here and I'll type it in. So to calculate your reading speed, we're going to go through these steps. But first of all, let's select a book, and let's select the right type of book to calculate our reading speed. This book right here, Tim Ferriss, Tools of Titans, great book. Tim is a brilliant man, but this isn't the best type of book to test your reading speed with because it has a lot of pictures, and also because there's a lot of different texts and fonts and different size and bold. We want something more streamlined. This is not a book. Wow, this is not a good book to test your reading speed. Same reasons. There's too many charts and graphs. Just not a good book to test your reading speed. Another type of book that's not good to test your reading speed is something like this. Neil deGrasse Tyson, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. Okay, when you are learning to speed read a book that's easy to read, that's simple, or on something that you have a background in. If you are an astrophysicist, you could try to speed read this book. But if you're like me and you're not an astrophysicist, not a good book to speed read. So pick something simple. Here is this one's not a good book to speed read. Baseball by the Numbers, lots of graphs and charts. Now you can speed read those books, but it's not good to calculate your reading speed when you're starting off. This is the kind of book you want to select. A book like this that is just text. It's all the same size. It's all the same font. Every page is just text, and they almost look identical. Find yourself a book like this to test your reading speed. And then this is what I want you to do. Now, when you calculate your reading speed, you're going to do this before you use any of the speed reading techniques that I'm going to teach you. So I want you to read at your normal reading speed without using any of the memory techniques or without any of the speed reading techniques I'm about to teach you. How do you count your reading speed? Calculate it. You count the total number of words in the first 5 lines. So count every word, the, and, a, I, o, every single word. Count the total number of words in the first 5 lines. After you've done that, divide that by the number 5. This will tell you the average words per line. For example, if you counted the words in the first 5 lines, and there was 50 words total, divide by 5, and that book averages 10 words per line. After you do that, then I want you just to read. Read at your normal reading speed. Don't use any of the speed reading techniques that I'm about to teach you, just read. When you're set the timer on your cell phone, when the 3-minute timer goes off, get a pen and mark the line you stopped on. Then count how many lines you read. Maybe you read 100 lines. Well, count the number of lines you read. If you know you read 100 lines, multiply that by the average words per line, which you figured out up here, and you know that you just read 1,000 words total. Well, divide that by 3, because you read for 3 minutes, and you read about 333 words per minute, which is actually a very good speed. This is how you calculate your reading speed. Go back and look at this later and calculate your reading speed. Now, let's pretend like you've just read for 3 minutes and you've calculated your reading speed. Now you need to read faster. This is how you read faster. And again, the first time you do this, don't use any of my techniques, because we want to see how much you improve without my techniques, and then do it again with my techniques and see how much you improve. My first technique is this. When you look at a book, you have peripheral vision. You don't actually have to move your head like this to see the entire page. Right now, if you're looking right at me, you can see the corner of this board over here. You can see my alien right here, but you're still looking directly at me. Why? Peripheral vision. And we're going to need to use our peripheral vision when we read. So this is what I want you to do, and kind of train your brain to do this. And I'm going to write in this book. Can we zoom in where we can see this kind of good? You think that's good? Mm-hmm. So here's a standard page. If you can imagine, on every page, you have a line here and a line here. How's that look? So imagine there's a line right there and a line right there. And just focus your eye on this center part right here. Believe it or not, your peripheral vision will pick up the sides. So if we can now start reading, and that may be a little bit too much. You might want to go a little bit further. But focus in on that center point and let your peripheral vision read. That's going to speed you up a little bit. Here is my biggest tip, though, on increasing your reading speed. Let's take this phrase right here. This phrase by Marcus Aurelius. Let's pretend like this is in a book. You're reading Marcus Aurelius's book, Meditations. And this paragraph says, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Now, here is the problem. When we are normally reading, when the normal person reads, they look at this, and instead of reading it like this, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one," Marcus Aurelius. That was pretty fast, wasn't it? The problem is that's not what our natural eye does. Our natural eye is trained. Our natural eye is not trained. It bounces around. So whether you're doing this or not, consciously, I promise you, you are doing it. Your eye is bouncing around the page, and it's doing this. Waste no more time, waste no more time arguing, waste no more time arguing about what a good man, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be, Marcus Aurelius. In other words, your eye is bouncing around the page whenever you're reading this. Now you say, "I don't think my eye is doing that." It is, but it's doing it so fast that you're not conscious of it. How are the comments and everything looking? We were live?
Yep.
Okay. So your eye is bound. You're definitely doing it. Your eye is bouncing around. You just don't know it. It's doing it so fast, you're not conscious of it, but it's still doing it, so it's slowing you down. If you can stop this, it's called visual regression. If you can stop this visual regression, you can almost double your reading speed with this. How do you stop visual regression? The first thing that you do is, I suggest you read with your finger or with a marker or with a highlighter or a pencil. And as you read, Put your finger underneath the words and force your eye to follow your finger. It will double your reading speed if you get to do that, just that. So have you ever seen speed readers and they have a book and you see them going like this and moving their finger across the page? You know what they're doing? They're forcing their eye to follow their finger. So get your finger and read and force your eye to follow your finger. Push it across the page. This is literally called the push in speed reading. So number one, try to focus not necessarily more on the center of the page. You don't have to go all the way from this line, all the way from the beginning to the end. Just remember, start about an inch in and stop about an inch before the line ends. Start about an inch in, about an inch before the line ends. And go down the page that way, pushing your eye across the page. First tip I gave you. The first tip that I gave you was, number one, indent. Number two, use your finger. I actually do use my finger a lot. If I'm on my laptop, I will use the mouse pointer, but I also a lot of times read with a pen or an underliner. Why? Because when I get to something important that I want to remember, I underline or highlight it. I don't worry about memorizing it right then, but it's highlighted or underlined it, so when I come back later. Use your finger or a pen or a pencil. Number three, my next tip is don't verbalize. Don't verbalize. Verbalize. Don't want to misspell it. I get a lot of grief for that. Don't verbalize. Here's what I mean. Don't read to yourself. Don't say, Paul Allen and I got in trouble for stealing a bunch of, what book is this? The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Paul Allen and I got in trouble for stealing a bunch of passwords and crashing the system. We got kicked out. I didn't use the computer. See what I'm doing? I'm talking out loud. You can't talk out loud in speed read. And you may say, well, Ron, I don't talk out loud when I read, even if you're doing it quietly to yourself. Even if you're very softly saying the words, you're still doing it. And that vocalization will slow you down. When we're first learning to read, as kids, yeah, we sound it out. We say the words because we're just learning. But as you get older and as you want to speed read, you cannot vocalize the words. So, number one, indent. Don't go all the way to the pages. Number two, use your finger. Push your finger across the page. Number three, don't verbalize. I muted myself there. Don't verbalize. Number four, go faster than you think is possible. Go faster than you think is possible. One of the best tips that I ever got for on memory was from world memory champion Ben Pridmore. In 2009, I wanted to set the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards in the United States. The record at the time was 1 minute and 40 seconds. So I emailed Ben Pridmore and I said, Ben, I'm at 3 minutes. I can't get under maybe 2 minutes on my best time. What am I doing wrong here? The best advice I ever got on going faster in memory also applies to speed reading. Ben Pridmore, genius guy, world memory champion. He held the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards at like 24 seconds. He said to me, Ron, go faster than you think is possible. He said, what's slowing you down about your memory right now is not that you have a bad memory. What's slowing you down about your memory is that you are not trusting your memory. You're memorizing something, and then you're going back and re-memorizing it because you don't believe that you have it. He said the best way you can increase your speed is just to keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. Don't go back and make sure you got it. Trust your memory and go faster than you think is possible. Now, in speed reading, you don't want to go too fast, but if you want to increase your speed over time, Go faster than you think is possible. Your brain can take in information much faster than you think and much faster than you're most likely giving it credit for. Do this. Increase your speed by about 10% and then adjust to that speed. And then maybe next time crank it up a little bit more and then adjust to that. You're going to find a point where there's a diminishing returns, where you're not able to go any further. But keep pushing until you really feel like you are at that level. My fifth tip here on speed reading, and this works for some people and it does not work for others. Some people will read better with music in the background. And almost everybody will read, if they are someone who uses music, it's classical music. Classical music doesn't have the lyrics that are going to distract your brain. It just kind of flows. So try playing music in the background when you read. It may speed up your reading speed, but it could also distract you. Music works for some, music doesn't work for others. So that's an on your own, you use your own judgment. I'm getting ready to answer some questions. We are doing a live. Are we getting questions?
Yeah, we have a little bit coming in, but I said at the end we're going to do some Q&A. So.
Okay. Caleb is helping me out here. You guys have heard me mention his name. He is a lifesaver. He's taking this channel to the next level, and happy to have him. So, number one, indent. You don't have to read over here. You don't have to read over here. By the way, after I give these 5 tips, I'm going to answer some questions, and then I got some bonus tips. So stay tuned. By the way, if you like what I'm saying so far and you're benefiting from this, I do appreciate any likes. I do comment below with any questions that you have for me. Even if I don't see them on the live, I'll come back and answer them later. Indent. Don't read all. Use your finger. Don't verbalize. This one right here is so huge. Go faster than you think is possible and use music. After you do this, go back and calculate your reading speed again and see how much you improved. I think you could double your reading speed if you really implemented these. And again, maybe get to 400 or 500 words a minute. That's probably about where I'm at. I don't speed read everything. And then if you're really good, 800-900 words a minute one day. Caleb, are we getting memory questions? Are we getting speed reading? What are we getting?
A little bit of everything. So Ronan007 says, what is the use of reading fast if you can't memorize them?
Well, what is the point of reading fast if you can't memorize? Because you're going to take it in. You're going to get the main points. But really, speed reading, you're kind of almost skimming. You're skimming, and you're getting the highlights, the main ideas, the overall general thing. Then once you have the main ideas highlighted or underlined, it's in your memory. It's in your natural memory still. So it's in there. And it'll probably stay in there for a day or two or maybe even longer, depending on how important the information is to you. But to really put it in your long-term memory and remember it for a long time, I do suggest you use the Mind Palace. If you've been watching my videos a long time, you know I talk about the Mind Palace all the time. Essentially, it's where you use pieces of furniture in a room to memorize points. But let's stay away from the Mind Palace for 1 second. Let's say that you're reading this book, Outliers, and you don't want to remember 40 points, 40. You don't want to remember 40 points from Outliers. You just want to remember 3 or 4 points, 3 or 4 main ideas that you learned from this book. Let's just say that's the situation. As you read, take note. And then when you're done, get the 3 or 4 things that you learned from this book, and then create a picture for the word outliers. Outliers. You know what I would see for an outlier? I would see the city that I live in, and then just outside of the city where all the grass and the land is, that's the outlier, I would think. So when I think of outliers, I would think of that area outside the city. You think of whatever you want. Create a picture for the book. That would be my picture for this book. Then I would take the 3 or 4 things from this book, create images for them, and see them, imagine them going on in that area just outlying outside of town. In other words, to remember 3 or 4 points from a book, create an image for the book, and then an image for the details you want to remember about it, and put them together in one big picture. And then every time you pull this bookshelf off the shelf, you're like, oh, Outliers. And then you immediately think of the area outside of town. And then you immediately think of the pictures you created inside there to remember the key points. So that's how you can remember 3 or 4 points of every book you read. I think that's a really great idea.
All right. Next common theme is how about comprehension? I understand how you can read fast, but how do you comprehend it?
How can you read with comprehension? This is the key to speed reading. You don't want to read too fast. But who asked the question?
Just a bunch of people.
Okay. How do you read faster without comprehension? That's why you want to measure your reading speed. If you're going too fast where you're not comprehending anything, who cares? You're not doing yourself any good. So find that fine line where you are still comprehending it, but you're still going faster than you think is possible. And then push the envelope. Keep pushing and pushing and pushing to speed up that.
All right. We got another one that says, what about notes during reading? What's the best way to take notes while you read?
I think the best way to take notes when I read is to underline or highlight and then write in the margin of the book or put a star by it if it's really important. I do have a notepad, but I don't use it all the time. And here's why. That slows you down. I think it slows you down to read here and then take notes over here and then read here and take notes over here. I underline, I highlight, I star as I'm reading. And then after that, I might go back and put it in a notepad. But if I'm reading for speed, I try to make as much notes as I can inside the book itself. While Caleb's looking up more questions, let me give you a bonus tip here. Sometimes the author of a book, the first line of the paragraph kind of tells you what he's going to say, and then the last line of the paragraph kind of sums it up. So I recommend to people sometimes they slow down a little bit on the first line, speed up in the middle, and then slowly read the last line of each paragraph. That kind of helps you to know what the main ideas are.
All right. How do I focus while reading? My mind just starts to kind of wander off.
How do you focus while reading? This is one of my biggest problems. Brain fog. Brain fog is a killer for me. Caleb can tell you some days he'll come over here and I'm just in a different world. It's like I'm on Pluto. And a lot of it is chemical stuff in my brain. And I have to work at it all the time. You know what I do? I pay real close attention to what I'm putting in my body. I try to drink as much water as I can. A dehydrated brain can't focus. I try to go for walks and get my body moving as much as I can. Another thing that I do is I use the Feynman technique. The Feynman technique is a principle where you will study or read for 20 or 30 minutes, then you'll get up, you'll go outside, you'll take a walk, you'll do some push-ups, you'll get those natural, your blood flowing naturally, and then you come back. In other words, do it in spurts, 20 to 30 minute spurts. I think you're going to find your ability to concentrate. If you can break it up in chunks like that, it's going to be a lot better. Turn off your TV, turn off social media, put your phone away. There's no way you're going to be able to focus if you've got all these social media distractions and TV. Create a time for that and come back to it. Watch your nutrition and exercise and taking breaks though as well.
Is it effective to read for 20 minutes, then take a 5-minute break?
I think it is, yeah. I think it is effective to read for 20 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. It's what I do. Now, sometimes you get going and you get in a rhythm and maybe you read for 30 or 45 minutes. You know, make your own rules. But I like to break it up. Now, sometimes when you're reading, if you're really enjoying it, 30 to 45 minutes is good. And some people just have the natural mental stamina where they can read for hours and hours with no breaks. But that is rare. If you have a problem with focus and concentration and brain fog, set yourself a timer on your cell phone, 20 minutes. Read for 20 minutes, the timer goes off, take a 5-minute break. Sit back down, restart the timer, give yourself some structure.
So how do you remember what you read for the long term?
Well, how do you remember anything for the long term? You remember anything for the long term by review. Something will go into your long-term memory if you review it enough. So you read it, you underline it, you highlight it, you take notes in a notebook maybe, and then you go back and you store this data. If it's 3 or 4 points, the outliers of the city, you'll review it. You'll review, what did I learn yesterday? What did I learn 2 days ago? What did I learn last week? What did I learn last month? If you can get in the habit of asking yourself that question of what did I learn yesterday, and reviewing the images, reviewing your mind palace. If you don't know what a mind palace is, I'll put a link in the description to that. I don't want to go too much detail into that because we're going to do many more live streams. And Caleb, I guess we're about approaching 20 minutes.
25, yeah.
25. So let me answer this real simply. Make your pictures vivid of anything you want to remember and review. Those two things will go in your long-term memory. Keep asking your questions. Let's do one more question or two more questions, and then we are done. But we're going to do, if this goes well, if you like this live stream, give me a thumbs up. If you appreciate this live stream, give me a thumbs up. If you appreciate it, comment below. If I get enough likes and if I get enough comments, I'll start doing 2, 3, 4 of these a week, okay? But I need your feedback. I need you to tell me if you like it. If you don't like it, I'll do other types of videos. Do we have a couple more? Let's see. While he's looking up final questions, let me review. Indent. Use your finger. Don't verbalize. Push your finger across the page. This stops the visual regression. Example, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. And if we use the indent principle here, maybe we start with our finger right here. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. Boom.
Ron, we got a $20 donation from Floppy Bob.
Floppy Bob is one of my favorite people. Did Floppy Bob give a comment?
This is great. Thanks for the live.
Okay, well, Floppy Bob, I'd love to do, I love sharing live with you, and maybe we'll do in person one day, and you can invite your friend as well. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for that $20 donation. That's never happened before, but I surely do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Click the link down below. Get my speed reading course at sprintreading.com. Click the link down below and get my black belt memory course. I have a full course, 60 videos on how to improve your memory. Caleb just helped me edit it. And I'll put a link to my Instagram, Brain Athlete, in the comments below. See you guys on the next video. I really enjoyed this. Talk to you later. Is there a button to press?